Welcome back to another fantasy puck video. I won't lie to you, there are some pretty big names on this must drop for a week 11 video. We have a couple players that we thought were going to be really prolific in their team's offense, just really have struggled as of late and just are not viable on some fantasy hockey teams moving forward. So I wanted to include these guys in this video as well. Happy holidays to everybody out there. Hopefully you guys have a safe and fun holiday. Really excited for this video. Let's get right into it. Starting us off, we have Andrei Kuzmenko of the Vancouver Canucks. 2 points in his last 10 games and 14-12 average time on ice in his last 10. Only a 6.2 shots per 60. His shot rate was very, very low to begin with. As you can see, he's seeing line 4 minutes and still somehow on power play 1, but Kuzmenko just offers 0 peripherals. And as we saw last season, he scored at an unprecedented rate of 27.3% for his shooting percentage. This year, he's at a 12.5%. Now, typically when we see a really high shooting percentage like this and a low volume shooter, either you're having just a fantastic year or you're somebody like Leon Draisaitl, who it doesn't matter how often he shoots the puck, he's an elite goal scorer, he's going to score. And with Kuzmenko, it just hasn't been the case, and which is honestly very surprising to me because Vancouver's been an offensive dynamo since the beginning of the season. And you'd think that, you know, at the beginning of the year, if you told me that Vancouver was one of the best teams in the National Hockey League, that this guy would be contributing massively to their offense. It's just not the case for whatever reason. There has been trade rumors surrounding him as well, so maybe he just needs like a different set of forwards around him or a different opportunity on a new team. I'm not sure what the future holds for Kuzmenko, but as of right now, he's just not rosterable on most teams. He's been terrible. The peripherals are even worse. His shot volume was bad to begin with. We knew based off of last season that it's pretty unlikely that this guy was going to shoot at 27% again. And even if he hovers around that 15% mark, he still just doesn't have a lot of value because he's not putting up a ton of points right now. So I highly recommend you drop this guy. Even if you're in a 10-team league, I think there are just better options out there. Go grab yourself somebody that has a ton of consistent peripherals. Check out our must-add video, which should be dropping tomorrow for some ad suggestions. But for Kuzmenko, just going forward, it's just not feasible given his ice time, given his production, and given the fact that his peripherals are just awful. Another name that I didn't expect to have on a must-drop video this year is Pierre-Luc Dubois. 52% owned currently. He's got 3 points in his last 10 games. He's been playing line 3 and power play 2 for the LA Kings as we've seen the immersion of Quinton Byfield kind of steal away that top line spot. I thought for sure we would at least see Dubois in a top 6 role, but again, Trevor Moore has played very, very well on that second line as well, kind of taking that spot. His average time on ice is just above 15 minutes in his last 10 games. His shots per 60 are down this year from 9.1 to 7. There isn't any really top 6 upside for Dubois going forward. Even his hits and blocks per 60 are down from last year, which kind of made him a unique player based off of how well-rounded he was. Typically dual eligible, very similar to a guy like Boone Jenner, but had, in my opinion, a little bit more offensive upside playing in Winnipeg previously. I expected him to come over to LA and really just fit right in like a glove. You've seen him play with talented players. He's been successful, and I expected the same thing out of the Kings. We knew it could be a possibility where they went with 3 centermen down the middle there with Danault and Kopitar as well, but I just didn't expect their big ticket ad in Pierre-Luc Dubois to be the third line guy. I think it's possible in the future that we could see Dubois back in a top 6 role if LA decides to switch things up or an injury occurs, for example. But for me, going forward, Dubois just doesn't have that upside that we thought he was going to have when he first joined the LA Kings. I'm sure we'd be talking about him much differently if he was playing with a guy like Kevin Fiala for the entire duration of the season, but that's just not the case for Dubois right now, and I highly recommend you look elsewhere in 10 to 12 team leagues. I will continue to have Tyson Barrie on must-drop videos if he continues to be over 50% owned. I don't understand. Okay, if you're a Tyson Barrie owner, please tell me in the comments down below why you either drafted this guy or have this guy currently rostered on your team. Unless you're talking about having a very, very deep D league where you have like 5 or 6 defensive slots, for example, I could understand that. But there's just no upside for me in Tyson Barrie going forward. 3 points in his last 10 games. He's been a healthy scratch 3 times in the past 6 games as well. 16-13 average time on ice also in those last 5 games. His shots per 60 were never good to begin with and are down even further from 5.6 to 4.6. Zero upside unless he gets traded, which there has been rumors. I just think with Barrie, again, it's a guy that you need to have some type of power play upside with him, and that's just not the case right now in Nashville. He's continuously being a healthy scratch. Not that he really hit a lot to begin with, but his hits per 60 are down to about half of what they were last year. Just go stream a defenseman, get a peripherals player, like just somebody that is going to add more on a more consistent basis than Tyson Barrie. You're better off streaming a defenseman than rostering this guy. I just can't believe he's 51% owned. If he gets moved to a team where he's the clear-cut power play 1 defenseman, then I think he's warranted that type of ownership. But for right now, Barrie is an absolute must drop in pretty much every league. I just don't understand why you would have this guy rostered. Again, let me know in the comments down below what your reasoning is for having this guy on your fantasy hockey team. To me, there is just no point in rostering him right now. Moving on to our one and only goalie on this list, we have Antti Raanta of the Carolina Hurricanes. He's 35% owned and has an .813 save percentage. That is not a typo. And a 1-3-0 record in his last 5 starts. He did have to come in for a relief in one of those. That's why the record doesn't exactly equal 5. Minus 7.3 in goals saved above expected amongst all goaltenders in the National Hockey League, regardless of games played. That ranks him 77th. That is bottom 3 in the National Hockey League, guys. The Kings are 4-5-1 in their last 10. We've seen them struggle as of late as well. They constantly are dealing with injuries and players getting moved in and out because of that. But they're one of the best Corsi. They're actually far and above the best Corsi for and against team in the National Hockey League right now. And I think that's honestly just to do with the style of play that the Canes play. They're usually a very volume-heavy team and look to kind of suppress shots. And this could also be the reason why we're seeing, you know, some struggling goaltenders in the Canes kind of team right now. Just given the fact that if they don't see a lot of shots and they're not stopping pucks on top of that, chances are that their save percentage and goals against average are going to be very high. The goaltending is just so bad right now that you can't hold on to Raanta. Again, I just think you're better off streaming somebody. He is probably better off as a streaming option going forward. I anticipate Kochekov to kind of get more volume going forward. Also, even though he hasn't been good either for the Canes, they're just struggling all right now. I anticipate that there will be some kind of a bounce back for these guys. But man, oh man, do these guys need some solid goaltending, and they're not getting it right now, and you're definitely not getting it with Antti Raanta on your team. Up next is Nino Niederreiter, and again, kind of a very similar situation to some of the other forwards that we've seen on this list. 3 points in his last 10 games, line 3, power play 2, 1456 average time on ice in his last 5 games played. His hits per 60, which is really kind of what makes him valuable. You get some scoring upside, you get some good shot volume, and you get some good hits, but his hits per 60 are basically half of what they were last season. Again, good shot volume from Nino Niederreiter, can't complain about that, but line 3 minutes in power play 2 doesn't really give you a ton of upside, and at 22% owned, I'm just not confident in his upside going forward. I do think he would be a hold in some deeper leagues, like if you need a forward that chips in some peripherals and will chip in a couple goals here and there. I think Niederreiter is a good option, but we've seen Gabe Vilardi come back and absolutely light up his first time back in LA last night. Again, it's just the fact that Niederreiter is not seeing any type of prolific top 6 minutes. He's not seeing top power play time. He's just one of those depth forwards that kind of chips in here in terms of the peripherals. 12 team leagues, I think he's a drop. I just think there's better options available with more upside going forward. And finally, guys, finishing up our list, we have Ryan Hartman of the Minnesota Wild. He's got 2 points in his last 10 games. He's been a healthy scratch twice in the last 6 games as well. 15 minutes average time on ice in his last 5 games. John Haynes seems to want him out of the top 6, which is unfortunate because he was an early must-add player for us, playing on the top line with Kirill Kaprizov and Mats Zuccarello. The shots and hits are wildly inconsistent and have been for the last little bit, but especially as of late, due to the fact that he's not getting a ton of ice time going forward, those have really taken a hit as well. I would still hold this guy in bangers, pims, and faceoffs leagues. He is dual eligible. He does have some type of value in that sense. But in any league that is not focused on like a bangers or a pims league, for example, or doesn't count faceoffs, he just doesn't add a ton of value, doesn't have a lot of upside going forward. He seems to be the odd one out. Joel Eriksson has been unbelievable this season. I anticipate he's going to stay that top line. And then we've seen the emergence of Marco Rossi, which adds a little bit more talent and finesse into the top 6 as well, which is not good for Ryan Hartman owners. But again, chances are if you have this guy Rossi in your league, you're in a bangers, pims, faceoff league. But I just think the upside isn't there anymore with the new coaching John Hines. He just seems to keep Hartman outside of the top 6, like I said, and there's just not a lot of upside going forward. That is going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you could leave a like and hit that subscribe button, that would be very, very much appreciated as always. Thank you so much for all the support and everything recently. Again, I hope you guys have a fantastic holiday. We should have a couple videos out over the next little bit, but expect a little bit of dip in content as Mike and I will be taking a slight hiatus just for the holidays, just to kind of spend some time with family and stuff. But again, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Have yourselves a fantastic rest of the day.